Welcome to the Fragrance Files.
Welcome to the Fragrance Files.
Yes, I'm still in Nashville for now. For
Okay.
now, let's see.
I've been to Nashville in a moment. So yeah, I mean, we mentioned it, like things have changed so much. You just launched a new fragrance that has gotten, I mean, phenomenal traction and great reviews. Like how is it going? Let's talk about diva behavior a little bit. Let's open up with that.
Yeah, let's talk about diva behavior. So it's interesting. It's our sophomore collaboration, and it's also with another drag performer. So I think there was a lot of nervousness about possible comparison to the previous one. But fortunately, it's been well received. It's wildly different than the one we did with Jinxie.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, it's been well received, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. And Manila is such a great supporter, and she's super into like promoting it and talking about it and like getting it out there in people's faces. So we're kind of like it's going into two different directions. Like she's kind of has her audience, and then OSM has our audience that we put it towards. And I think it's really validating to see that it's not being received as like just a piece of merch. It's really being received as a piece of like high fine fragrance, like high perfumery, which is a nice compliment. I like that.
Yeah. I'm not one to blind buy, but as soon as I saw that promo video, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting this."
Yeah. Thanks. That's
I need it
sweet.
immediately.
Yeah, I was so thrilled to see the promo because you allowed me to smell an earlier draft of it when we talked last
Yes.
year, and you were like, "Can I'm excited for this one." And then when I saw the video, it like clicked in, and I remembered that scent, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
This is gonna be so
Oh,
cool."
great. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Manila and her team did a fantastic job with that promo. That is like all the credit goes to them. Um, I didn't have any say in it. And just they did great. Couldn't be happier.
But it's so interesting how that encapsulates the vibrancy and like vitality of that fragrance. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
to your point, not to compare, but your first collaboration, Hera, with Jinx, is this sultry, moody, dark fragrance that is very reflective of Jinx aesthetic
Yeah.
and how she kind of presents herself. So it's not like you did a second drag queen fragrance. You really encapsulated each of them separately as performers and as
Oh yeah,
personalities.
thanks. I appreciate that. I think that was really important. It's an important distinction to make too, because like that's what a lot of the storytelling that I do in my perfumery is about. That's the focus, is to really get the narrative from the subject and find out what they're trying to tell, and then tell the story through fragrance for them.
And Diva Behavior is not your only new fragrance out, right? Do you also have something out with Blackcliff at the moment?
Oh wow, you're really yeah, you did. I was like, do we? Do we? Yeah, actually, Chris Undy and I both did two limited releases with Blackcliff. Um, Sunset Chiffon is the one I did, and Spellbound is the one that Chris Undy did. They're available in like 50 ml bottles, which is a departure for Blackcliff because everything's normally in 100. We did a party at Perfumology in Philadelphia in November.
I like the shift to 50 ml. I think that makes it a little bit more accessible for us wild creators.
Yeah, I'm in chats with him too to try to get him to do some travel sizes too. I think given the economy and like what's going on in the world, like there really is a need to make sure that brands have that. I think it's important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How would you say working with other brands has made you reflect or look at your own work differently?
I think what it has done is it has helped me become laser focused on the narrative and really homing in on the exact story that you're trying to tell. And the challenge when you're trying to tell it for other people or other creative directors is really getting into their mindset and then asking questions to really get to the nugget, the kernel of what they're trying to tell. And so I think what it's done in my own brand storytelling is that I'm able to ask those questions of myself better. And so I think that I think my fragrance making has improved over the last 6 years, say 8 years. Yeah, I think it's been very helpful.
So for those that are joining us and maybe aren't familiar, we are joined by Kyle Mott-Kannanberg of Blend, which is also your own synonymous brand OSM, which we've been talking about here, as well as the upcoming event Fumed. And you do brand consultancy work with Black Cliff as well as some others.
Yeah, so yes. I'm sorry, you have a question. I'm interrupting you.
Yes. Thank you for coming back on to chat with us now in the Fragrance Files. How, you were kind of balancing your brand as well as working for others. It's been a year since we last talked.
Yeah.
Sitting here and now, what feels most different for you?
My focus, as I'm trying to focus on this question, I think my focus has changed. I love doing my work for OSM, for my own brand. It's really satisfying creatively. But there's been so many opportunities that have popped up that I've expanded the work that I'm doing. So with Blend, I work with other brands to make formulas for them. But on top of that, there's been a missing piece that has been really important. I've seen in the industry, or I should say in the indie industry, is that there's not a place to get fragrances made. Meaning, as you're a creator of your own brand, it starts to get too large for you to really handle all the things that need to be done. So I saw an opportunity there, was approached by a brand in the UK to do some production in the US for them. And so that kind of sparked my idea of like, oh, I could do this for other brands. Well, on top of that, then there's always been the problem with trying to get into new markets for small brands, independent brands, especially trying to get into Europe or anytime you're trying to go overseas, it's so difficult to send perfume. And so after about 5 years of trying to figure it out, I just decided to open up a small studio in the Netherlands to do that. And so we do production work in the Netherlands for small indie brands in very small runs of like 200 units. And it's a way to get fragrances over there. And then we do the reverse from the UK and EU here. And it's helpful with like tariffs and stuff like that because you're not sending over a completed product. Once it's manufactured here or there, then it's on the soil that it's going to be delivered to. So you don't have to like fly it. And it's just it's a lot easier.
That's really fascinating. I don't know if you've ever met Heather, Cold Frame Perfumery. Yeah. Hi, Heather, if you're listening. She and I had a discussion probably 8 months ago where I was talking about, she comes from an HR background. I come from a business background. And I was like, I feel like there is this like managed services component for indie and niche perfumeries around like support with exports, support with scale, support with negotiating rates with packaging and with ingredient sourcing. And like, I was like, I feel like there could be a space there for someone to help, but it sounds like other people are also seeing that need.
No, we should talk about that because I think that would be interesting because there's, like you said, there's like the talk about packaging and sourcing and all that stuff. There's a lot to it. I spend a lot of the days talking to brands, helping them with the hiccups that they've experienced along the way with packaging, with like primary packaging and secondary packaging. When they are promised something and it doesn't show up correct, or if like they get their product going and then there's a fail and then they have to like go back. And I mean, almost every indie brand has experienced that at some point.
Yeah. And it's very difficult and discouraging to navigate, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's frustrating when you've put all this time and attention and money into this thing, and then you think you're doing the right thing, and then you find out that like whatever you've sourced is not working, or it's failed, or I mean, I've had them all the fails with packaging.
So you mentioned kind of from then till now, you mentioned twice your focus has shifted a bit, both in terms of how you're approaching perfumery, how you're approaching your businesses. Was there a turning point when you realized that your role wasn't strictly making perfume, but in helping shape the way perfume shows up for people?
Well, I think in the first part of that question, like, was there a turning point? I think it was when I was just being approached by different brands or creative directors to do things, and I realized there was an opportunity there, that they didn't want to go to big oil houses to like make stuff, mostly because they were probably going to encounter sales agent that they were going to be conversing with rather than the perfumer directly. So I realized that there was an opportunity there, and I started to entertain that more. I wanted to give back like knowledge that I had earned over the years, like hard earned knowledge, and I didn't feel like everybody has to go through the same kind of like knockdown thing of, learning the hard way. I was like, I should be able to like help people. I've always been kind of a helper person. So it's not foreign to me. And when I found myself in so many phone calls that were hours and hours in length, and because it's hard to get me to stop talking about perfume and like all the various aspects of it, especially manufacturing, I realized like, oh, this is something that I should give some attention to.
Yeah. I mean, the barrier for entry, I think, is so high in making
Yeah.
fragrance. So, I think it's really wonderful that you're sort of like you're not gatekeeping anything. You're helping and allowing these brands that may not have had the resources to flourish, really.
Yeah, I think thank you for saying that. I think it's a really important focus of the work that I'm doing with my brand Blend, the kind of overall production house of it, and also with Fumed. That's a big part of what we're trying to do with Fumed is offer
Yeah.
education so it's not just Fumed this once a year expo. There's going to be other events that happen throughout the year, and got like lots of different like other plans of educational type things that will occur during the year and smaller.
I love this. Yeah. Let's dive full in. Let's talk about it. For all those listening, what is Fumed?
So Fumed is turned out to be this grassroots independent thing, this idea that I had of I'd seen that there was so much online with an online indie fragrance community and people who loved it. And I had gone to a fragrance expo in Stockholm called Polaris. And I've been to lots of fragrance expos like over the years, like Pitti Fragranzi in Florence and Essence in Milan, Scent Explore in New York, Scent Fair LA, like a couple other of them in London. And I've realized that like of all of them, Polaris was the first one where I felt treated brands so kindly and just were so supportive and helpful, and realized that the reason that they were there was to kind of bring out and bring up and highlight and showcase these independent brands, or brands, I should say. And then in the other ones that I've been to, it's not about that. It's always been like an uphill climb and like such a labor to like just be involved in it. And when I was talking to the owner of that show, Polaris, Saman, I realized that like, oh, it's all independent brands. And so, and he's also a super kind, awesome person as well. And I was like, oh, it's that combination of like indie brands and him being a really helpful and caring person. And I was like, that's what we need to bring back. So that was the kernel that started it. We just couldn't find the right space for it. We thought we'd found the right space, and then we kept pushing it back, and it kind of like got pushed up against where Scent Explorer was going to be. And I really didn't want to like take any focus away from them. And I also didn't want to like, you know, just didn't want to have the association or any competition for the time. So we pulled it back. And then like late December, we found out that Artifact Events in Chicago was available, the North building specifically, which is really beautiful, I think. And it was only available at the end of March. So I was like, oh, it's time to jump in. We have to do it. And that kind of started the whole roller coaster that I'm on right now.
I think honestly, I believe that the timing is kind of perfect because now we've been in the indie space for a couple of years now. You know, we've been talking about indie fragrances, but I think the masses are starting to catch on and starting to develop more of an interest. And I think 2026 is going to be the big year for indie. So I think you've perfectly timed this, starting this year off with this convention.
I love it. Great. Love hearing that. Thanks, Mishi.
I mean, I think people are asking and following Scent Explore and people talking about their experiences there, and especially people talking about spaces that they didn't feel they belonged, or they didn't feel that the independent brands were getting the showcase and the space they deserved. Yeah. I think just with the timing of as Fumed has come together for you, it became a natural next step for a lot of people saying, oh, well, maybe I thought about going to Scent Explore, but I heard that these people didn't really enjoy it, or I didn't have a good time there. Where do I fit in? And now there's this new event that's happening.
Yeah, I hope we're going to fill that gap between like trade show and like Scent Explorer, like that's in between spot where it's not about the spectacle and it's not about the business to business aspect of it. It's really about building a community of people who have similar interests.
So I, for one, am really excited that this is going to be in Chicago. But my own personal feelings aside, what made you choose Chicago and what made you choose now?
Okay, so I chose Chicago because I think, well, we always show the love to New York and LA. Like, it just always is. And I thought there's a place for a show in a second city. And I'm in Nashville. And I don't think Nashville is the place for it right now. I think that there still needs to be more education in Nashville as far as like indie fragrance. I don't think there's the appetite for it. Chicago is, a great city. It's centrally located. It's easy to get to. And I think that there's really good things, interesting things that are coming out of Chicago right now in independent perfumery. So it's all kind of lined up exactly right. My family's from Chicago, so I know the city a little bit, and it just felt right.
I agree. It feels like it's starting to boom there as well now too. And I live in New York, and even still, a New York City event on a weekend in the middle of December is really difficult for me and expensive for me to make happen. So people flying in, like it's rough. So I think Chicago is definitely the right choice.
Yeah, I think cost-wise too. Like even just like looking at hotels and stuff like that. I mean, I was looking at hotels that were like sub 200 a night, and it just made sense. I didn't think that there was going to be so many people coming in from out of state, to be honest with you. And half of the ticket sales has been from people who are not in Illinois.
Yeah, it's because we're all a little crazy.
Yeah, I've received a few messages from people being like, I know you travel a lot for work. Where are you staying for Fumed? Because I have like the down low on hotels in Chicago.
Oh,
Apparently,
you do? Okay, great. Tell me, because I'm like trying to.
I don't. I
No.
don't at
I'm
all.
just
It was
kidding.
an
No.
assumption.
Yeah, the hotel situation is not great around the venue. There are some good Airbnbs. I've noticed like some of the existing B&Bs have already filled up for that weekend. But really, the two neighborhoods that people should look at if they're looking for hotels are River North.
Mhm.
And then there is like there's a couple hotels in like Lincoln Park. I know Hotel Lincoln is a good one that's a little bit smaller, an older hotel, but like feels really fun and interesting. But River North has like all the, you know, plenty of um, larger hotels that should be able to find a room very reasonably priced, and it's just a quick like 25-minute train ride to the venue.
That was the thing that I did like was when I started researching. I was like, oh, there's a train stop like a block and a half from the event space. It is actually very well located to get to.
That was the reason I picked that location because I was like, oh, everybody's going to be able to get here. And again, thinking people are coming from Chicago, like local, like it's easy to come from the suburbs, like of the surrounding area of Chicago, to come that way. It was easy to come from within the city. I was like, oh, and it's like literally like you just said, like a block and a half away from the front door of the event.
We've talked a little bit about what Fumed is and how it came to be and when it is and where it is.
Yeah.
But what kind of experience are you kind of hoping to capture for attendees? What are you hoping that people experience?
Well, I hope that this is what I hope to experience. I hope that they experience something that feels like a community. It doesn't feel like you're being sold something. It feels like your voice and interests are as equally as important as the brands kind of that are out there trying to get you to notice what they're doing. I think that I would like people to like experience like I always go back to this kindness in the space and mutual respect in the space, and that's something that I'm really focusing on and kind of like as I make decisions about I mean even just like vendors that we're working with that are behind the scenes. So I do hope that people take the experience as an enjoyable one, that their needs were met, that people, the organizers thought about things that they need when you're going through a space and you're spending 4 hours or 6 hours in the space, if you're spending all 8 there, on the day. Thinking about like what's around the area, like if you want to go out and get some lunch or if you just want to take a walk, is it a safe area? These are all things that I wanted to like really help out with. Is the space going to have seating that you can like take a break for a moment? Because standing that long is really a lot. I know as a brand too, even thinking about that with the vendors too, and just thinking, oh, you can have enough seating for yourself. Are we gonna have enough people to like float around and help manage your booth for a moment while you take a break? Because a lot of them are coming from out of towns, and a lot of these brands are single people operations.
I think what strikes me the most about this is how focused you are on the people and the experience that everyone is going to have. I don't know if I've been to as many events that it is so people focused. I know we've talked a lot too, even about some of your the COVID policies, the protections that you're putting in place, the ventilation in the building, like these things that I don't know if other people creating these sort of events
Mm-hmm.
are really taking into account, that mean a lot for people and make it more accessible and so much more welcoming to the entire community, not just a small group of, the big
Yeah,
creators. So I think it's with all of that, it already feels incredibly welcoming, and I think it's getting people really excited to join in.
good. I'm glad. I just wanted to create like a really fun party and have people who like the same things and have something in common to talk about. Because this goes beyond just like this is way beyond commerce for sure. This is really about building a community and something that is different than what is already out there.
Yeah. And I think
For
Josh and
sure.
I have talked a lot about this and how the community that has been built around fragrance is really so supportive, and so there really are so many kind people and so many great ways of connecting that I mean it's hard to make friends as an adult,
Yeah.
but starting off on the same foot of like, hey, you like fragrance, I like fragrance, great, we're halfway there to being
Yeah,
friends.
I agree.
um so let's talk a little bit about the brands that are coming. So, um, what do they tend to have in common? We talked about how they're indie. How else might they be have something in common?
Well, I think that they all have, they're like fiercely, they're independent, but I also think that they have a really clear, distinct identity of who they are and what they're doing. For example, like Hair Fat is a fantastic example of what Allie is doing and her point of view from, from the what's inside the bottle to what the bottle looks like to like what her branding and marketing looks like. It's very clear, and interesting, and it's something that like you wouldn't see, in a lot of the brands. This is the common thread is a lot of them. It's what you will not see in commercial fragrance, because commercial fragrance has to appeal to so many people that the kind of the art of the whole thing gets like really whittled down and like kind of goes to this very bland place. And I think that all these independent brands are taking really interesting risks. Like Zoe at Cirrus, she's got, a very specific point of view. Blackcliff Tomlinson, the creative director there, he has a totally different point of view than, the other two that I've just mentioned. I think the Alloy Studio, they've got some awesome things going on, and I love the editorials that they put together. They really have thought it
Oh, they're
out. Yeah, I think
gorgeous.
they've really, you get what they're doing. I think that's a through line. They all have this very specific, unique story to tell.
And they know who they are too. I feel like there's not a lot of wavering in those brands. They set out to have that image, and that's the image that they're sticking to, and I respect that a lot. They're not bending to the will of trends, and what's going to be good and what's going to be interesting is how I feel like all of those brands are taking that approach. And I think they're putting out some of my favorite fragrances
Hmm.
on the market right now.
Yeah, agree. I agree. And because as things come in, I've been smelling a lot of things coming in, because I'm gonna do some videos on the brands that are attending. So we've been smelling some of their things, and it's just so cool because I have smelled a lot of them before, but just to kind of get them all in one place to like kind of smell most of their line or all of their line and see their whole vision has been really interesting.
Something that is interesting, one of the things that excited me most when I started hearing who was showing up to Fumed is they are people who I have either interviewed in Goth Fragrance Dialogues or people that we have been begging to come onto the Fragrance Files.
Ah, okay.
These are the people that I admire and that I've enjoyed talking with, and I'm excited to see again. Um, so if you are listening and you're interested in hearing more about some of these brands, just go to the YouTube. We
Yeah.
have Sid from Sid Botanica. Uh, they were my first interview. Not not the best, I'll say. But like Sid is so phenomenal, and you can hear a little bit about how they do these kind of dreamy atmospheres that their fragrances live within. And I'm so excited because all of these brands are, like you said, the story. And that's what makes me so excited about perfume. They each have their very own genre, and they're telling these very cool stories.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're all, like I said, very interesting. Lots of them have been I've been friends with for a while now. Um, sadly, not everybody could make it because it was such a short kind of like startup. Like bummed that Zernell's not going to be there. That was a huge like bummer.
Oh, that is a
Um,
bummer.
it just didn't work out timing wise. He has his wife's birthday that they have to go. taking a big family trip, but he'll be there next year. And also a lot of friends from Europe too that weren't able to come just because of the time frame, also the current situation at the border. There's some, nervousness about that, which hopefully will, work itself out. Not, it's not going to work itself out, but it's going to get better.
Be worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, going to get better. And so hopefully next year they will be able to join us too, because I think it's a really important. And I think that we don't have enough access to these extremely cool European brands. People are just they have an appetite for, and maybe not this year, but maybe next year.
It's my goal to get to Polaris this year too. I think the fragrance file should go to Polaris. What do you think, Josh?
I'm down.
I think you should.
I'm always down. I have Sky Miles. I can make it happen.
It's not that it's not that difficult to get there. The flight is not difficult. The flight is as much as it would be flying coast to coast in the U.S. The difficult part, and it can be, is that you're in Stockholm and the host hotel would happen to be just a little bit more than I thought it was going to be. But I do know other brands that were able to go and, find an Airbnb, find some other type of accommodation that was separate from the hotel. But again, it was a cool space, and I think it's really fun. You should go.
I think that an event like Fume feels very much like a pushback against the centralized perfume industry, and I feel that the fragrance files, that is something that we are all about. It's also something that Stell is all about, and like challenging these norms of what the perfume industry can be.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is sort of where the industry or community is heading?
I think so. I mean, just look at the number of boutiques that have started in the last year. I think it's very, with Stell in the last couple of years. I think that was 3 years ago that they started. Maybe is it 3 or 4?
Two. We're going into our third year.
I think Stell was a really big deal that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think Ode to Perfume, Rachel's Place in Denver, man, she's crushing it. And she's offering stuff that, is not available. There's been other small boutiques that have opened that have fallen, this is going to sound weird, but that's fallen victim to distributors. So their offerings, they come in and fill in the name of this distribution company, have come in and said, here's our catalog, here's our 15, or 20 or 30 brands that we carry, what you want to carry, and then here's how much you have to commit to it. Whereas really, boutiques that can work directly with the indies, they can order small amounts and it's better for everybody. The cycle then is those boutiques then are now cash poor and they have to sell. They've got a huge stock of these distributor fragrances which is a bummer. But I think there's been a big change. There's another one in San Diego that just opened, I know.
Yeah, the Dry Down, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's some other ones that are online, which I think is interesting too. People who are doing that. And I hope that, they're doing that with the hopes of one day opening up a brick and mortar in their local area.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I can get a little concerned with that because when you do it strictly online and you don't have the overhead of a brick and mortar, you can offer more discounts. And what makes me worried about that is I don't want indie fragrances to start being treated like the gray market on websites that can offer those discounts.
Yeah, and you have to be really careful with, as an indie perfumer or an indie brand, is that when you discuss placing your product in that store or whatever, that you're very clear about what they can and cannot do with as far as pricing. and sales and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Because I mean, technically they've purchased the product from you and they can offer sales, but you know, especially when I work with Blackcliff, you know, he's very clear about like there's no sales. You cannot offer
Yeah.
a sale. And he's found sometimes where there's been a website or a brick and mortar that has offered his products on sale, and he's had to go in and pull it because it doesn't honor the contract that they had.
From a consumer perspective, you know, that might sound really harsh, but at the same time, like you have to turn around and look at, you know, this is not a big conglomerate, right? This is not a huge company whose product is, you know, they're making for very little money comparatively because they're making so much of it,
Yeah.
right? When you're talking about indie perfumers, your cost per bottle is so much higher because of the how many you're producing. So if you're offering that at a discount, you're hurting, I mean, you're hurting your own profit margins and initially, but then you're also hurting the profit margins of the small indie brand as well because they're not going to be ordering from their direct website anymore.
Yeah.
So it's not meant to screw over the consumer, but it's also meant to make sure that your product is not being devalued in any way.
Individual private parties who decant and sell to each other, like that I think is
Different,
totally
yeah.
different and fine and acceptable, as long as it's not a situation where you're purchasing directly from the like multiple bottles from a brand, which I have found that a couple times, been like, hey, this seems like you're going to do this thing with this, and this seems like you're taking somebody else's product and repackaging it in a very specific way to cut the sales of that brand. You know, offering it in like 10 mLs, and like the brand doesn't offer it in 10 mLs. Like if you're offering it in like a small sample size and the brand also sells in a small sample size, I think that's okay. But once you become like a business and like you said, Mishi, like this gray market situation, it's rough.
Right. And speaking to, you know, respecting the art of the indie and the independent perfumers is also understanding that the production scale is not there to support things like large PR outputs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's often, you know, I think creators are getting a lot better about it. I would say in the last like 8 months, but for a little bit last year, there were some folks that were like, well, why won't this brand send me PR? And it's like, well,
We don't have the money.
it's one person. Yeah, it's one person. That's
You sunk everything into like buying materials and packaging and everything, and you didn't think about like that. I mean, we have, you know, when I coach people through it, I'm like, please make sure you think about like marketing and save money from marketing and you know promoting it. But we don't really have discussions about make sure you know remember to save money so that you can afford to send out PR. It's kind of like, well, it's not really. There really isn't a budget for that, and maybe that's a bad thing, or I don't know, but it's a thing.
I think it's an expectation that the community needs to check with each other. Like I've had a few small brands reach out, say they want to send me something, and it's so incredibly flattering. And I always say I would love to sample your work. The last thing I want to do is say yes, send me a bottle, because it does feel good to be given something. But if I don't love that bottle, like that could have gone to someone else. Send me samples, and if I like it, I'll buy it.
Yeah, I don't want to cost you something and feel bad about it later, you know. Let me sample it first. If I love it and you still want to do the bottle, awesome. If all the samples is all you can afford to send, awesome. I'm still going to do it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I think you brought up something. I saw a video that you put out recently, Mishi, that I thought was really good about you know, I think it's important to pay. However, when content creators say nice things or like, you know, whatever, or promote you in some way.
Yeah.
And I've talked to other brands, and I've had conversations with LC about this too, about the way of approaching it is that you contact that person and you say, hey, it's really great. Thanks so much for making this. Can I compensate you in some way and use this for a specific amount of time to promote my brand.
And it's, that's why I made the video too, because I don't think a lot of people realize that that's how things work. There are the deals where a brand, typically a large brand, pays you upfront to make a video, but ultimately a lot of certainly the largest amount of paid requests I've gotten are on videos that I've already made, and people didn't really know that that's how it works.
Mhm.
So they get mad at a creator when it says paid partnership, and it's like, well, they gave you their honest opinion. They were just paid after the fact, and yes, that has to be disclosed. But yeah, I think if you're going to use the video, then yeah, some sort of compensation is excellent. And a negotiation, you can't go and expect, listen, if it's a huge brand owned by one of the evil overlords, I'm charging you a couple $1,000s.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If it's a small indie brand, I mean, I have a sliding scale anywhere from like $100 to like $500,
Yeah.
like whatever. I'm cool. I'm glad that we get to have this interaction. Let's work together on more projects in the future.
And I think I think you're right. And I also think the important part is too, is that it has to have a time limit. It can't be like in
Yes,
perpetuity
that's a big
forever and
deal.
ever and ever. It's got to be like, oh, this is for 8 weeks or 4 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then like set that. Because then it can be like measurable too. Like you could say like, wow, that really had a great return on investment. I want to go back to that creator and say, hey, that was great. I can now maybe pay you more and like extend the reach bigger because we proved that this video that you made was organic and true and it was real and honest and it performed well. When we, paid you $300, let's say, and we ran it for 4 weeks. And now this time we can say like, hey, let's up the budget of the amount of eyeballs we want to get on it, and we want to pay you, another tier up. And hopefully that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I think it's a great way of building relationships between creators and brands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that we have this as an organic topic here because our next episode actually we dig deep into brands behaving badly. So
And I say these things because and my brand hasn't done any of this yet. And this is like on my 2026 like wish list of things to do is to reach out to all these people who have made content for OSM, about OSM, I should say, not for it, but about it, that they're generally excited about, and then going to a few of them and saying, hey, we finally have squirreled away a little bit of money that we can now turn to you and say, we'd like to pay you. We'd like to try this out and see what happens. Because I'm excited about that to see what happens because I am just not a great promoter of what I do.
But you're making an event. You're promoting an event.
As I'm promoting an event right now.
You're saying you're not good at it while you do it. Yeah.
I'm just terrible at it. No, but I really am. Like it's definitely learning how to build this roller coaster, like I say. But yeah, not great at marketing. And there's also too, there's just the natural friction of like not having enough time in a day. We can all relate to that. But I think
Tell me about it.
Especially if you work for yourself, it's like there's just not enough. There's not enough time.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely something to be said how organically OSM has grown, and now how organically Fumed is growing, and how naturally people are excited about it without having to pour all of that into the marketing and into, paying people to talk about it. So I think it speaks to the quality and the excitement of what you're doing.
Yeah. It also it removes a little bit of the stress too, because you don't have to worry about like, oh, I've got to pay this person back. It's like, no, or this entity back, or whoever funded the thing.
Yeah.
If it feels like it's organic and you have a little bit that you can like use towards something, it's not as big of a risk because we're paying for it. It's not like we've gone to somebody else and said, hey, can you help fund this thing we want to put on? It's like, no, we're going to put the seed money in and then figure it out from there. Thinking
about the community and about Fumed, I'm sure it has consumed a lot of your time as we barrel towards it.
Yeah.
When Fumed is over, when the tables are all packed up, what do you hope lingers with the people who attend?
I hope that they leave having had a great time, so they have a positive experience, And I would say that I hope that they leave feeling part of a community and making real live connections with people in person. Yeah, I think that would be like, I would call that the dry down of the event. The dry down I would like people to take away from it. Uh, yeah, this positive communal experience. And I think because that's to me is the most important thing by far on this earth is connecting with other human beings. All of the other stuff is just BS, in my opinion. And I think that's maybe a function of getting older. You realize that like you're not, there's just things aren't important, but people are important. And I think the more that we can like
Absolutely.
come together and like, have a common thing, because definitely I don't think everybody is this monolith who is a fragrance lover in the independent world, or that they love independent fragrance. I mean, everybody's so very different and diverse. And I think that is what we need to, see in the world is a lot more diversity and people coming together in positive spaces.
It seems you feel a lot of like responsibility to the brands, to the fragrance, the attendees, and the culture itself.
It keeps me up at night sometimes. It actually keeps me up every night so far, as we're barreling into the 46 days out as of February 9th.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, in fact, yeah, somebody said, like, you have 1.7, this was last week, you have 1.7 months left. And I was like, thanks, Simon. It was really helpful. Don't need that anxiety. So I do feel like I have a responsibility to provide something that, people are showing up, people are traveling, people are like, that was the thing that I was like, oh my gosh, people are not just driving 30 minutes or 45 minutes. They're getting on a plane, making a trek, hours and hours, getting a hotel, taking time off from work or their family, taking time away from their family. That to me is like, oh, that's a big responsibility to deliver something that is enjoyable and I will say this, and not in a sense of like, what's going to be my swag? What's going to, what are we getting when we show up? Like, that's just, no, I mean, we don't have the money for that. The tickets just don't, offer that. The cost of that space was so much more than I had ever anticipated. That's really, what all of this is, where most of the funds are going is to the physical space and the comfort in that space. So yeah, I feel a responsibility to the people who are showing up. I feel a responsibility to the brands that are showing up to make sure that they're taken care of. But they've also been like incredibly supportive too. I just got off the phone with Josh Smith from Paraphrase a few hours before we're doing this here, and I was like, uh-oh, what's going on? What do I need to, to provide, Josh, what is he concerned about? And he was more concerned about, hey, I think you're probably really busy. What can I do to help? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, wow. What do I need? Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I can turn around and say to them, yeah, I do need help, which I think is great. Um, and that has, now I'm looking, at other friends in the other friend perfumers, and I'm got them on a list now that I'm like, oh, I have to call Chris Undy and say like, hey, can you help me with some more graphics? Like, we have like some basic graphics, but now I need like some signage and things like that. Like, can you help me with that? Because I can do it, but I don't have, you know endless amount of hours.
There's only so many hours in a day.
Only so many hours in a day, but people have been really helpful. So yeah, so it's not just I'm glad that I'm just not feeling all of the weight, that I can turn back to like people within the community and volunteers that have like already like people in Chicago that are sending me DMs and emails saying that they just want to volunteer, as that's
Love that.
blows my mind. So building that list and having somebody kind of like coordinate that has been helpful.
Well, I appreciate you taking an hour with
Yeah.
us to talk a little bit more about it.
I appreciate y'all taking the time to do that. This is such an important thing, I think, that the two of you are doing, and I think you should be commended on the podcast that you've been putting together, because I think there's been some room for, some more perfume chit chat. There's not a lot.
Thank you.
There's not a lot. And you both seem very kind and generous and not in it to like take down brands or people or I'm not saying that there's other
Only when they
podcasts that
deserve
do that. I don't know, you know. There are some good ones out there
No,
for sure.
we both love indie fragrance so much, and there's so much to talk about that just short little 3-minute videos on TikTok never felt like they could really fully capture. So we're really excited to just, and this is something that we were doing for a while anyway. We were meeting weekly, chatting on live, and it's like it felt like a natural progression. So we're,
Oh, great.
it's just time for us to hang out, really.
Yeah. Excellent. I
And
think
the people like to listen along, and it's amazing.
I think you should have I would love you to have Sarah. Do you know Sarah McCartney from 4001 Series?
Yeah.
She's such a delight. Like she is like I just think the best guest on a show or just such a wonderful person to talk to. I think she's like the fairy godmother of indie fragrance. You know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When she and I were talking, she was mentioning how she loves to see when her boys are out in the world doing things, that she likes to go see how they're putting on, whatever brand that they've started and things like that.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's a cool lady. I really enjoy chatting with her.
Yeah, Josh interviewed her for Goth Fragrance Dialogues, but hopefully we will get her back on.
I didn't know that. I need to go dig into that and find that one.
Well, there's everybody's
Also on the
reminder
YouTube.
to go check out our YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the Fragrance Files. We just converted Goth Fragrance Dialogues into the Fragrance
Oh,
Files.
awesome.
Yeah.
All one channel.
Oh, great. So now you have like
Yep.
a deep backlog, deep library, I should say, of previous episodes.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
And not overcommit to it. If I'm able to, when we launch this episode next week, our original interview will also be launched as a bonus episode of the podcast.
Amazing.
So, Kyle, for those listening, where can we find Fumed? Tell us when it's going to be. Tell us all the details.
Thank you. So Fumed is happening on March 28th and 29th in Chicago in the Ravenswood neighborhood at an event space called Artifact Events. It's going to be happening from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. You can find more information at fumedexpo.com. That's FUMEDEXPO.com. And you can also find it on socials, both TikTok and Instagram at Fumed Expo.
And we will all see you at Fumed.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
See y'all there.
Can't wait to see you there.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
love you.
Nice talking to you both. Bye.